This is the G.I. Joe Classified Series Storm Shadow. Storm Shadow as a member of the G.I. Joes. He jumped ship. This is this period in the 80s where, yeah, he's a G.I. Joe, not a Cobra. Interesting story back there, but again, he switched sides, I suppose, later on. But I thought this was one of the cooler figures back in the 80s. I actually had the old O-ring figure of this figure, the 3.75-inch figure. Back in the day, it was one of my favorite figures. Unfortunately, I lost it and sold it off or whatever. I absolutely loving this design. I picked up this figure from Amazon, and lo and behold, packaging is in pristine condition. Amazon's really getting good at packing their stuff using the crumpled up manila paper. Let's get this bad boy out of packaging. And here is Storm Shadow as a G.I. Joe out of the box. And holy heck, you guys, this figure just takes me back to the 80s when I had this old O-ring figure. And it's been given a modern touch, a modern redesign, and I am loving it. I love the accessories. I love the new details. I love the more modern approach, more modern redesign of this figure. I'm loving this figure. Let's take a close look at the details of this new G.I. Joe Classified Series Storm Shadow as one of the Joes. And here we go. Hasbro just killing it with this new Storm Shadow figure. Look at the details of this thing. I mean, his uniform has that trademark. I mean, it was so iconic back in the 80s. I think this is civilian or city camouflage. The major modernization that they've put with this figure is this part right here. It's a separate piece. His new waist cape, or waist armor, I should say. Waist cape combined with waist armor. They've given him a separate piece for, I guess, maybe some padding here. Not entirely sure what this is. I guess this is for when he slings his bow or something. He's got a separate piece for rappelling ropes. And what they also did new with this figure compared to the 80s version is they've added the two scabbards or sheaths for his katanas on his sides. And I love the detail that they've put on this one. It's as though it's a mix of both modern military gear or modern Cobra gear, G.I. Joe gear, mixed with traditional, look at this, the rope that's been tied up. He's used the traditional bindings of the Japanese samurai for the sheaths, and I thought that was pretty cool. Even here, his shin guards, he could have easily used modern G.I. Joe tech for shin guards and his boots, but it feels like the old samurai armor still tied onto his leg. I mean, if you watched Blue Eye Samurai, you'll know what these things are. And you get to see a lot of new details because the old 80s figure never had these. They never had the sheath here. It had a big red backpack, and you would put both the swords there, and that was it. The figure comes with an extra pairs of hands. He comes stock with the gripping hands, and he has an extra pair of fists, an extra pair of karate chop hands. Now, I didn't take them out of the packaging because with a figure like this, trust me, you're not going to want those extra hands. You're going to want him always with the gripping hands because he has a ton of accessories, starting with these Deadpool katanas. They're actually pretty cool. True to Storm Shadow's form and iconic presence and iconic weaponry, he always has two swords. Even the old Storm Shadow, let me just bring that one in. He's got two swords. And it is a big difference from what they did with the original sword. As you can see, this original Cobra sword is a much thicker katana. It feels very futuristic with some tech. Maybe electrocute. I don't know. It feels very high tech. This one is a very traditional blade. I think katana, very much like what we've seen with Marvel Legends. And it'll fit these two scabbards or sheaths, but the more curved one, there's one that's more curved, one's more straight. The more curved one would fit here on the lower sheath, and then the more straight one would fit on the upper sheath. I think better. I tried putting them, swapping them. They still work fine, but this is the best, I think, fit for the swords. Yeah. So I want to keep him that way. He's got a ball jointed neck, albeit the neck joint doesn't allow him to look up, which that's probably the only complaint I have with this figure, not allowing him to look up. The cowl, I don't think is removable. I think it's glued on to this head sculpt. Head sculpt, beautifully painted eyes, really nice mask. He's got a ratcheting ab crunch, ball jointed waist, butterfly hinge shoulders. Shoulders go in and out, forward and backward 360. Bicep swivel, pinless double hinged elbows, which are very tight. He's got wrist a swivel. This one goes up and down. The others go in and out. He's got drop down ball joint hips. Ball joint go do the splits, go kick forward, backward, thigh swivel. Very, very tight knee joints, double hinged pinless knee joints. He's got a calf swivel or a boot cut. Ankles go up and down and have the rocker tilt. Now, speaking of other accessories, let me just stand this guy up. Very tight joints. I'm not complaining. I love tight joints. Tight is better than loose. The comparison of the two Storm Shadow figures we've gotten from the Classified series. As you can see, this one is still my favorite. Obviously, the classic Cobra Ninja Storm Shadow, definitely. But this one, man, it is so cool. Really takes me back. I mean, if you had this figure back in the day, you are going to love this figure. About the same height, almost the same build. Very, very cool. Okay, and speaking of weapons, let's just put this one, get rid of this. He's got a backpack that stores everything. Oh my goodness, look at that. It's an updated tactical backpack with a new tactical bow. And look at this bow. Very nice, unpainted though. And here is the old Cobra tactical Hawkeye bow that he had. Big difference. This one just like, it feels like it would pop out. It would transform. So very cool. Even has this guide. I thought this was a silencer or a suppressor, but I think that's where you put the arrow in and it just shoots out. And I think for a while they wanted to do a loose arrow. There's a provision here for an arrow, actually. Loose arrow, which maybe you can use on this bow, but they decided not to do it. I've tried searching and looking at the box. There's no loose arrow, so okay. I'm not sure how to put the bow. I thought it was this way, but I found a tighter way to put it this way. So it will hang on the back of the backpack. Backpack, beautifully sculpted. And I love what they've done with these extra arrows. I mean, look at that. It extends outward. Very nice. It's not just completely molded into the backpack. He's got his gear. And he's got these two Wolverine claws. Well, they're not actually Wolverine claws. They can be used for fighting, but they're mainly used, I believe, for scaling walls. So they can climb, they can climb walls with this. And of course, you can use it to slice and dice as well. So the figure can hold both of these claws, or grappling claws. It's a little tight. I haven't actually tried putting them on. This is the first time I'm doing so. Oh, okay, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, it does feel like Wolverine claws. And if you read the comic books on Marvel comic books, Wolverine, one of his trips in Japan, before he had his metal claws, before he had his adamantium, there was one scene where they were fighting a bunch of Japanese, I don't know, military or Japanese samurai, and somebody gave him one of these claws, and he was using it, and he loved it. So yeah, I guess these are the origins of the design for Wolverine claws, the Japanese scaling claws. Very cool. There's blades on either side. There's blades right here, which probably he can use to defend himself and slash backwards and slash forwards. And here he is with the rest of Clan Arashikage, with Snake Eyes and Jinx. And he fits wonderfully. I mean, I love how they look on the shelf. He fits nicely with the other two Joes of Clan Arashikage. And so some final thoughts on this G.I. Joe Classified series, Storm Shadow as a G.I. Joe. I absolutely love this figure. My only big complaint really is that neck joint. I wish you could have made his head look upward a little bit more. It barely moves upward. I love the accessories. I love the modern redesign and redeco of this figure. It's a classic in the 80s. It is one of my beloved figures, childhood figures, growing up as a kid playing G.I. Joes. And I didn't read of the comic books. My friends and I were debating how he could become a G.I. Joe. He was Cobra and all that. And it was a lot of fun, suffice to say. And I'm pretty sure they're going to re-release this as a retro carded figure and probably give him that red backpack and those red swords and whatnot. Man, this figure just takes me back. Fantastic articulation. The details are amazing. Those accessories are the ones that really sell this figure. This figure is obviously going to get a 10 out of 10. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think of this G.I. Joe classified series, Storm Shadow, as one of the G.I. Joes. Hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of my latest video reviews. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.